Hi, this is Danielle from Kenwood Farm, and I'm going to show you in this quick video how to do beef broth in 3 different ways. So the way that I'm going to cook it today, it's a chilly fall day. It's actually raining. You might hear it thundering outside in northern Illinois. So I'm going to cook it in my pressure cooker here, very simply and quickly, but there's 2 other ways that we could cook it. I could also put it on, and this is normally what we do in the really chilly winter months once the wood stove is going. I will just put some water in all of my ingredients I'm going to show you in our large crock here, and put it on the wood stove for anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. It's going to be simmering on low, and that is going to get it cooked up really nicely without me having to use any energy. So that's an extra plus. I save a few bucks there. What I'm going to do today is the easiest way. I'm going to cook it in my pressure cooker here. But if I wanted to cook this the longer way and get a little bit more flavor out of my cooking, I would first roast these things here. So I have my soup bones. Now your soup bones are not just going to be the bone. They're also going to have some marrow inside, which your other bones would too, but also your meat. And that will create a beef broth. So there actually is supposedly a difference between beef broth and beef stock. The stock only has bones, and the beef broth also has meat. We typically get soup bones from our butcher, but we can also get soup bones that have meat on them from our butcher, and that's typically what we have. But we can also get just the bones. They look a little bit different. They're a lot bigger. So I also have here, and you could throw other things, especially root vegetables in, but I've got some carrots that just, really simply chopped up, onion and garlic from the farm. And then I have some peppercorns, bay leaves, and some salt. This is just some Himalayan pink sea salt. I would normally also throw in a couple herbs that I'm growing outside, but it is super rainy and I don't want to go outside. So my son offered to go outside. That's okay. If you want to, you can. So I would actually roast these at 400 degrees in the oven before putting them into a pot to cook them if I wanted to cook them the long way. And that gets a lot of the flavor kind of coming out of the bones and the meat, as well as the juices from the vegetables. However, I want to do this a lot quicker today. When I do that, after about people do it quite differently, 20 or 40 minutes, depending on how much you're going to put in there in the oven at 400 degrees. They'll also put a cup of water in the bottom of the pan that you're cooking in, and that is going to get all of those juices that have kind of cooked to the bottom of the pan off. And you'll ladle that into the soup that you're going to be, or the broth that you're going to be making. So I'm just going to simply put these babies in here. They're huge, and they have a lot of meat, a lot of dark red meat on them, and there's some marrow in there too. And I've got about a half gallon of water in here. And I think this is plenty. Some people will put quite a bit more bones into that, but it really is quite a bit. Enough for me. So your 3 different ways are to slowly kind of just cook it in a pan, and you could use this pan as well, and just have your regular lid, or I should say a saucepan more like this. Pressure cook it, which you can also use your Instapot. You can find tons of different recipes for that. This is not boiling, and my son's helping. Or, here we go, the long way by roasting it and then putting it in, any pan like this and bringing it to a boil and then letting it simmer. I'm just going to throw those in there. And I'll go ahead and put this on for about an hour on the heat and let it kind of pressure cook and steam for another hour. And then I will actually use these vegetables to eat. Now, you noticed, and I could just use the broth if I wanted to and discard them, if that's all you're kind of looking to get out of it. There's quite a bit of meat on these. And so I will normally use those in a soup, and that's why they're called soup bones, or even put them just over rice. A customer sent me a really awesome recipe that I want to share with you. Grab me a spoon real quick. So after she's done making her broth here, she'll take out the meat, and it's going to fall off the bone. You can see it already is. But it's going to fall off the bone pretty easily at that point. And she will just take some tallow. Of course, you could use butter. Oh, but I almost forgot the most important ingredient. What? I'll show you in a second. you put some tallow. Do you want to stick it on that pan there?
Yeah.
On a cast iron. Of course, you could just use a regular saucepan, and she will take out the meat and put it on there and turn the heat on low. You could bring it up to medium if you're going to eat them pretty soon, and use a fork to just spread apart the meat and add some taco seasoning. And it's going to, and a little bit of your broth that you made, and it's going to be like a barbacoa. You could put that over mashed potatoes. You could even do riced cauliflower or regular rice. And that's a really easy way to kind of get 2 meals out of one. But of course, you could also just kind of break it apart as well and use it in your soup.
Do you want me to spread it?
Sure, you can spread it. Tallow is also a great way to season your cast iron pan. So I think I'm going to do that after this is fully cooked because I really want to give it a try. Now, the last thing you want to add before making any of the 3 types or any type of bone broth is some apple cider vinegar. That is going to pull the, hold this for a second. Put down the meat right there. That is going to pull the minerals right out of the bones. And it also gives you a little bit of a tangy flavor. So I'm just going to put maybe a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons in there. So I'm going to get this going, and we're going to have a tasty broth here. Again, a lot of different ways to make it. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't be too scared to give it a try. It is so healthy, and it tastes so much better than the store-bought broths and stocks. You really can't go wrong. If you didn't have these veggies, or you didn't have bay leaves or peppercorns, that is fine. You can simply use the bones and water. You're still going to get an amazing broth. But adding these different things, especially the apple cider vinegar, is going to give you a little bit more flavor and more nutrients in that bone broth. Of course, you know that you can use broth for soups, stews, add it to make gravies, but a lot of people are just drinking it now, even in their morning coffee, because it is so nourishing, especially to your gut. Okay, I've got one other tip for you. Anyone who is purchasing beef, we always wash. So I know it's kind of gross, but so this had my bones in there, and I rinsed out any of the blood, because if you just throw this into your garbage can after a couple days, it's going to be stinky. And if you're not changing it right away, you're not going to enjoy that. So we wash them, and then we'll actually let them dry, and then we will either put it into our garbage, or if it is the winter, we'll just throw it into our wood-burning stove. And of course, if there's tape on it, remove it. But that way it will not get stinky. I wanted to add that as a little kind of funny tip at the end. But our little helper here, Gunner, this is going to be a really easy and quick way to make some bone broth, and I hope it gives you a little bit more courage to give it a shot for yourselves. All right, thanks. Say bye.